Chapter 1, A House on Wheels. On the 13th day of the 4th month in 76, the world was a boiling pot and I was thrown in the mix. I was ready. My mom wasn't. After 9 months of waiting inside her belly, I was ready to make my introduction and caught her off guard. She and my sister Tawana, who at the time was about 2 years old, were home in the Bronx about to eat dinner. Flashback. A few years prior to my arrival, my mom and dad met in the Bronx, New York on 141st Street and Cypress Ave. Started dating and he moved into her place. Their second child, my sister Shaniqua, died suddenly exactly 1 year before I was born. It's the reason my mom, my siblings and I never have and never will celebrate April Fool's Day, the day my older sister died. The doctors called it SIDS, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. She was almost 4 months old. I never met her, but I'll never forget her. My big sister, Shaniqua Dawson. Sleep in peace. 3 months later, I was conceived. My mom's side of my family is rooted in Savannah, Georgia and Alabama, while my dad's roots lie on the island of Barbados, Bridgetown to be exact. My father had his first 4 children, Shaniqua, Tawana, myself, then Saitani, with my mom. My father ended up making a child with my mother's friend in my mother's home. My mom let her stay in her home because she had nowhere to go. Which is why my half-brother, SB, and my full-blood sister, Saitani, are just 3 months apart. He then chose to chase his dreams while my mom was stuck to deal with reality. End of flashback. My mom started to feel contractions and told her friend Darlene to take my older sister Tawana to my grandma Ruby's house, hopped in a cab, and headed to the hospital. My aunts Deborah, Barbara, Cynthia, and Yolanda came to see me, all 10 pounds of me. Years later, my mother would give birth to my younger sisters Latoya and Letitia. When I was about 4 years old, although I was very young, I had a Christmas I'll never ever forget. Me, my mom, Tawana, and my sisters Saitani and Latoya had stepped out from the shelter where we were forced to stay to go to the supermarket. When we got back, we discovered someone had stolen our food, Christmas presents, and even stole the tree. I was more confused than hurt. I didn't really understand what had taken place. We were robbed, but I really didn't understand the severity until we woke up Christmas morning without gifts. It was made clear to me then. My sadness instantly kicked in. Even our food was gone. My mom stayed on her grind, managed to get all of her footwork done, and we finally had our own place. I loved to visit with my mom's sister, my aunt Cynthia, on Andrews Avenue in the Bronx, as we did many, many weekends with the usual suspects. Aunt Barbara, her husband, my Uncle OJ, Aunt Deborah, her boyfriend Vincent, who years later was killed in 9/11, Irvin Vincent Gillard, sleep in peace. Aunt Patricia, sometimes Samantha, and all my damn near 30 cousins. Aunt Barbara, as usual, was burning her rolling papers at the dining room table, playing cards with my mom and their sisters, gambling their food stamps or whatever cash they had on hand. Damn, I miss those days. My cousins and my sisters were outside in the courtyard running around crazy, playing manhunt, tag, and the regular hood games hood kids played. Suddenly, a big bus pulled up, and out stepped Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I rarely saw my dad, but when I did, I was the happiest kid in the world. All the kids began to crowd around them. I remember the smell of them like it was yesterday. Leather and activator. I was in the house looking out the first floor window. I just hopped up from my usual spot, my mom's lap, which my uncles always complained about, saying, "You need to let that boy be a man." I couldn't have been more than 4 years old, y'all. My dad walked in and said hello to my mom. As usual, she looked at him, said nothing, got up, and walked into another room. He then picked me up playing with me, swinging me around, took me outside, and showed me the tour bus. The Furious took turns passing me around. I hated when it was Easy Mike's turn because he always slobbered my nose and thought it was so funny. So did my mom and my aunts. The bus was amazing. It was like a house on wheels. Visits were never long though. After he talked to my sisters, it was time to go. So when are you coming back? Always my question. Soon. Always his answer. Like always, he hands me this huge wad of cash, leaving me there staring at the back of the bus as it drove off. It wasn't easy, but aside from everything that went on in my life, I always did well in school. From 1st to 5th grade, I went to a school right down the block from our 2nd floor, 2-bedroom apartment at 1768 Weeks Avenue, Public School CES 70. Weeks Avenue was a wonderland where kids would live through their innocence playing games like Manhunt, Catch and Kiss, Skellies, Hot Peas and Butter, Snatch-O-Matics. Yeah, let's talk about Snatch-O-Matics. Oh, I can't forget Red Light, Green Light. This part is not in the book, but y'all know I just had to ad-lib a little bit. All right, Snatch-O-Matics, where if you had a food item, snacks, candy, or even a juice, and you wasn't on point, it would get snatched by one of your friends and you couldn't get mad. To avoid getting your snacks snatched, you had to announce out loud so everybody could hear you before you open your snack. Haggis down, yo, Haggis down, Haggis down. Then you could snack in peace. The girls would play hopscotch and double dutch. We'd hydrate ourselves in the summertime with 25-cent juices, aka quarter waters. Get wet at the fire hydrants, eat penny candies, and go exploring in abandoned buildings doing backflips on dirty mattresses, navigating through all the secret cuts in the neighborhood that would lead us from block to block. The drug dealers in the neighborhood kept us safe, would give us money and buy candy and ice cream for all the kids in the neighborhood. The tough older kids would tell us to go to school if they saw anyone who looked too young to be standing around at certain hours. We were all poor, had no clue of it, and felt like we had everything. Mr. Mark Singer, an honors teacher who would years later become the principal of CES 70, took me under his wing. He taught me how to play chess, made me a tutor in math and chess, and stayed my teacher from 3rd to 5th grade. By graduation, I was one of the top students and was leaving with honors. My intelligence may have also landed me one of the most beautiful and smartest girls in the school as my prom date. My mom always said, respect yourself and others, especially women. What she didn't tell me was, there are all types of women. I think now she was forcing me to treat women the way she'd wish to be treated. My prom date, Jackie, was gorgeous. At this point, I didn't understand black, white, or Latino. None of it. I didn't even know Mr. Singer was Jewish or what Jewish was. All I knew was I had the most beautiful girl in the world as my prom date. At the time, she was Asian. I'm pretty sure she still is. Jackie and I weren't dating at all. We were just two highly intelligent kids at our prom. We never even kissed. I didn't know about kissing. We stepped inside and everybody greeted Jackie as she stepped in with her beautiful dress and her +1 looking quite dapper, if I say so myself. It was a grand entrance until I suddenly heard screams. Just loud screams and shouts of, "Oh my God, it's him! That's Grandmaster Flash!" My dad walked in right up to me, bent to a squat, excitedly said, "What's up, son?" and pulled me in for a hug. Thrilled to see him, I hugged him back and said, "Hi, Joseph," as I called him because I didn't know any better. My sisters and I also used to call my mom Paulette by her first name, and she never corrected us. Flashback. One day while visiting at our house, my Aunt Cynthia, annoyed, said to us, "Stop calling her Paulette. Call her Mommy. That's your mother, for Christ's sake." We all looked at Cynthia, looked at my mom, and never called her Paulette again. As full-grown adults, we still call her Mommy, never Ma or Mom. Except for when my sisters are angry with her. Then they call her Mother, which I've always found hilarious. End of flashback. The kids were surrounding me, bombarding me with questions. The teachers just stared at me. The kids asked things like, "Why didn't you tell us?" I was genuinely confused. "That's enough, kids," the teachers ordered, rescuing me from the crowd. My dad got on the turntables and everybody loved it. I still didn't get what the big deal was. I understood even less because my mom never let us listen to hip-hop music. Her collection was vast but included R&B, soul, gospel, and pop only. By this time, my mother had given birth to the last installment of her 6 children, my sister Letitia, whom we straight up spoiled. After my graduation, my dad took me to Sylvia's restaurant in Harlem and linked me up with my half-brother SB. The following year, when I turned 11, he let us stay at his condo in New Jersey for the summer with his new girlfriend, Pam. She'd just birthed my little brother, Keith. Pam was the best, man. Even though we were at my dad's house, he was never there. Pam didn't really enjoy cooking, so we ate out a lot or microwaved. It was like a party all the time with the same guests: me, SB, Keith, and Pam. We watched movies, played games, and just had an awesome time. I still called my dad Joseph, but SB had always called him Dad. SB and my dad were closer as father and son and spent more time together because he was his mother's only child. And his mom was receptive of my dad, as opposed to my mom, who was not and had 4 of his children. While there that summer, I called my dad Joseph, like always, and he told me to stop calling him that and to call him Dad. I slipped up a few more times calling him Joseph, but he'd correct me. And after a while, calling him Dad became a habit. Over the years, as I matured, it went from Dad to Pops. That summer, whenever we weren't in New Jersey, SB and I would go to my dad's sister's in the Bronx, my Aunt Penny's apartment in Betances, to chill with her son, my older cousin by about 5 years, Ramel. Penny's house was like yin and yang, yo. Because even though you were guaranteed a full-course meal, down-home style, video games, and karate flicks, you'd usually end up being Ramel's unwilling sparring partner. He was in top shape as a child, had bulging muscles, and was into all types of bodily harm, including boxing. Most likely a spirit inherited from my great-uncle, Sandy Sadler. featherweight champion of the world through the 1940s and 50s. Sleep in peace. Another reason Betances drew me in was Tanya. I met Tanya and we just clicked. Tanya was my first kiss, and we kissed a lot. Surprisingly, that's as far as we went, and I never tried to go further. I wasn't even sure what further was. Sex was never a topic. One weekend, me and SB picked Ramel up from Betances, and he came to spend the weekend with us out in Jersey. We wowed out that whole weekend and acted a fool. We hit the gag store on 42nd Street and bought a bunch of cool stuff. We got back to Jersey, greeted Pam, and introduced her to Ramel. He shook her hand, she jumped back and softly yelled, "Ow! What the f-" We all started laughing, showing her the joy buzzer. She laughed, started hitting us, and promised to get us back. We hung out around the house the rest of the night and did the usual. Played video games, chilled, and went to sleep. The next day, Pam snuck out of her bedroom into the living room where we were all sleeping and told us my dad was there. She wanted us to use the joy buzzer on him. We said we would, but we had other plans for him. My dad is a neat freak. He might even be a borderline germaphobe. So, among everything else we got from the gag store, we got a can of fart spray and a fake pile of y'all know. We set it up on the bathroom floor on the side of the toilet and sprayed the fart spray heavy. Ramel's sinister mind came up with the idea to rub Vaseline on it, and the trap was set. We sat down in the living room, watched cartoons, and ate cereal. We heard my dad get up to go use the bathroom, got quiet, and waited. Seconds later, he yelled out, "Who took a on the floor? Get in here and clean this up now!" We were in the living room rolling on the floor laughing. I got myself together and left the living room wiping the tears from laughing so hard. Walked in the bathroom and said, "Okay, relax." Bent down, picked the pile of up with my bare hand and said, "You happy now?" Me, Pam, SB, and Ramel in unison yelled, "Gotcha!" He laughed softly and humbly, knowing he'd been got. We all laughed, gave him fives, and Ramel caught him with the joy buzzer. Days later, SB and I'd gotten to 42nd Street to the Port Authority kind of late, heading back to Jersey. We were with friends in the Bronx hanging out and lost track of time. When we got back to the Port Authority, we were stopped and detained by the police because we were too young and the PA had a curfew. We sat in the PA police station for hours, scared to death. We called Pam, but she had Keith, and he was too little to travel so late. We called SB's Aunt Raynette. She made the drive all the way from the Bronx to Midtown Manhattan, walked in, looked at us handcuffed to the seats, and started flipping on the cops, telling them to take the handcuffs off. She was not scared at all. She talked to them like she was the cops. She drove us back to Jersey, and I felt it the whole way. That bad feeling in my stomach. Something was way off. My father said plainly after he gave us one good whack on the ass with SB's skateboard, "Pack your stuff. Y'all gotta go. You're going home in the morning." I was devastated. My father and Pam broke up at the exact same time. The next day, he dropped us off at the PA, gave us some money, and left. We got on the 2 train headed uptown. Our summer was over. Throughout the years, I'd barely seen my father, but I'd always hear about him through other people. He came to pick me up from the neighborhood a few times, so people knew who my dad was. He DJ'd at my 5th grade prom, so word spread quickly. My mom raised me to be good, only good. What she didn't tell me was there are bad people and things in this world. She kept my sisters and I hid from all of it. We didn't go outside after school and we couldn't have friends over. Kind of like the Italian mafia. We were around family only. Same people, same places, all the time. We watched The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Different Strokes, Growing Pains, Alf, Perfect Strangers, The Facts of Life, The Jeffersons, Give Me a Break, and a bunch of wholesome shows like that, religiously. Television shows with positive messaging about being a good human being. No profanity, nudity, or negative messaging at all. There were only about 11 channels to choose from, and the television stopped broadcasting at a certain hour during the night and the screen would turn to snow. I remember wishing I was Theo Huxtable, a dad and a mom in the same house. Every day I thought to myself, wow, that would be awesome. My mom wasn't super religious, but my home's walls and counters were covered with religious artifacts and quotes, which I read and saw each and every day. I was hardwired involuntarily, I guess, by my mom to be a good man from birth. When I got to junior high at 12 years old, it was all right there in my face. Fights, sex, drugs, and violence. I'd never been in, much less seen, a fight. I'd known a lot of the dudes in my new school, Diana Sands 147, from my old school, CES 70, and from seeing them around the neighborhood, so we ended up getting cool with each other. As much as my mother tried to hide us from it, in the late 80s, there was no way she could hide all of this. You name it, and it was at 147, or the Sev, as it was nicknamed. Monroe Avenue, Building 240, was around the corner from Weeks Ave. It's where the dudes I hung with were from. 240 is a neighborhood not built for the weak. And for the next few years, I'd find that out the hard way. After a while, I started to hang around the corner from Weeks on Monroe Avenue at Building 240. Only thing was, to hang on 240, I had to be tough. I didn't have a tough bone in my body. Or so I thought. Anytime anybody from 240 saw me, they made me fight. They literally made me put my hands up and taught me how to fight. All of them. One by one. For years. Not the older dudes though. They'd entertain themselves by making us fight each other. I was changing. And I knew it because I felt different. I even started to stand up for myself to my cousin Ramel, which only made him go harder, but even he had to start giving me a little bit more respect.